Hello again, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Network Podcast for Assassin's Creed Initiates. I am your host and community manager for Assassin's Creed, Andy. I am joined, as always, by
Gabe Graziani, senior community developer on Assassin's Creed.
Welcome back.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be here. Actually, this episode I'm really excited about.
Yeah, same. And that is because we have as our guest on this episode
Alexis Jolis-Desautels. And now, don't try to write this down. These are 3 French words. Just call me Al or whatever. I guess Jolie is not, there's a famous one in the States, although it's not written the same way. But Jolis-Desautels has brought me so much pain trying to have English speakers write it down. I usually just hand out my driver's license. I'm a game director on AC Initiates as of now.
Ooh.
Still today.
Yes, AC Initiates. Well, thank you for joining us.
Sure thing.
It's great to have someone from AC Initiates on, because it's been in the dark for a while. It's been in the dark for
Yes, it has. On purpose.
We'll get into that, but I'm sure there are people listening who are rejoicing. They're like, it's back, yes. You left us hanging. So, as you've probably guessed, we're going to be talking about initiates on this podcast episode. But before we get into that, into the meat and potatoes, we're going to start by learning a bit more about Alexis.
Oh, okay.
So tell us a little bit about your duties as a game director on initiates. But I guess you can start prior to that with how you got to Ubisoft in the first place.
Right. So my favorite color is blue, which is the first thing you need to know.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I'm to be honest, I'm not sure that's true.
I pegged you as a red kind of guy.
What? No, red is way too obvious. I don't do red. So yeah, I've been working on the design side of things for a while now. It's actually, I'm celebrating my 10th years in the studio in Montreal here in a week or two. We have this super fancy dinner thing with the CEO here and everything. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah. I got in as a tester, as a matter of fact. Back in the days when we used to have a large amount of testers in Montreal, this has been moved mostly to Eastern Europe now. And I got eventually, I was pushing to get a design position on a project. And I built a folio and I presented to people I knew in-house. And eventually there was a spot, like a free spot that got made on Splinter Cell Double Agent.
Oh, wow.
It was the last older gen we did on PS2 back then. And I got a game design position there, and then I moved from project to project. And anyone knowing anything about Ubisoft Montreal knows that we usually, even at the time, we used to have like at least 10 different projects going on. And so you never know what you're going to get as a next project. So I did a bunch of weird stuff and different stuff. People don't know this, but we used to have a South Park game that got canceled in the midst of it. And that was like, 8 years ago maybe or something like that. So that was one of my first, I was designing the multiplayer portion of that. Then I moved on. I did a TMNT game, which was nobody wanted to do, but it was one of the best projects I ever did. It was amazing. It was awesome. It was to go with the movie that was the animation movie that was done back then.
Oh, right, the 3D animated one?
3D animated one.
That game was really good.
Yeah.
It was hard, too.
Yeah, it was.
I remember playing that when I was a game journalist. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was nice, though, because if you actually beat it the whole way through, it gave you the full 1,000 achievement points. So I was happy.
The game was known to be a bit of an easy achiever to get the K achievement there, but whatever. But it was a lot of fun, and then I did it, other projects and whatnot. I've done a lot of teaching, also at the same time on design, whether internally on the design methods that we've been crafting in UB for a while, or just outside of the studio as well. This is a big part of what I like to do, or giving speech or stuff like that, keynotes and whatnot. So I've been doing a lot of that, and then I worked on the development of online in the studio for a while, and that's when I got back in production on Initiates. Considering how different of different is one way to say it, considering how different the platform is, especially in UB Montreal being so specialized on big single-player AAAs, story-driven, character-driven and all that, having this social or, at the least for now, this online portion for a brand is something, it may seem obvious for people out there, and I get you. But it's not, and it's really hard to implement in a brand like AC. So I was really excited to try to help steer the ship around that iceberg and bring more online to what we do.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because even so, once you get past the obviousness of, well, we need to do this, we need to build this thing, right, so that people can do it. Like, the shape that should take is a whole other battle, right?
Yes.
Like, was that? I mean, that must have been challenging. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, and it's every day it's like this. So it's not even something that you can just envision and just run with it, because it won't. The thing that you need to understand, especially working with a brand like AC, is that obviously a game comes out every year, which means that there's obviously more than one game being done at the same time, because, newsflash, we take more than 1 year to create these games, in case you didn't know. So it means that there's always a certain number of teams, and everyone's trying to ship. People are just trying to ship their game, and AC's being so big and so complicated, and it's, whenever you come around and you start talking about these new things, or what kind of feature can you try to imagine? What do people want? I mean, they're playing the game, and AC is a very much so offline brand. It's a single player offline brand mostly, like we know this from the past. Things will change, I believe, with Unity and the way it's presenting co-op in a different light, and it will keep on changing in the future, that's for sure. But still, you don't want to come in and say, all right, everyone, let's do an MMO and let's go online with like a PvP zone and stuff. I mean, no, it's not going to work. That's not what the brand is about. So trying to find the right way to talk to people and show them what it means to be connected, and I guess that's more the word to use for a brand like AC. What is the AC connected experience? So it is really hard, and again, it changes all the time. So we're always building, trying to iterate on the learnings and building on top of it, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
Well, that flows nicely into the next question I had. And so Gabe and I are in privileged positions in that we know what Initiates is. In fact, actually, if I can quickly mention that when I got to Ubisoft, this is the first thing I worked on. I came on board as a comm dev for Initiates. But for those who don't know what Initiates is, basically, I guess, give us what would be the elevator pitch. What is Assassin's Creed Initiates?
Initiates is this persistent connected layer that talks about you in the brand, and those are really the key elements for us. It's about you as a player, but I guess it's more than that, right? Because it's you, and we know, and you guys know, being a fan of the AC brand, or being Initiates yourselves. I mean, this stuff is going on as we speak, right? This is the thing. That if you go out there and if you look hard enough, you will find assassins, or people close to the Brotherhood. You will find Templars, or people close to the Order. And this is going on as we speak. And there's this present day layer, the living layer of the AC brand is on. And as a player, and I think this is really important, and we need to be able to push this as far as we can in the future, you are part of this world and not playing a character. And of course, we had this for a while. We had the Desmond cycle, right? You were playing Desmond, and it was a very interesting story. It's a way we introduce people to the present day layer of the brand and everything. But the Fluck, he's not around anymore, and that's actually a good thing, because it's really important for us to allow people to position themselves in that world. Initiates are part of the Brotherhood. They're really close to assassins. Maybe some of the Initiates are assassins, and this you may never know. Maybe you, EscoBlades, is an assassin. In addition of being an Initiate, and in addition of being a comm dev for this very thing you're part of. I mean, so we want to build this intricate layer, this persistent layer that talks about you. Everything you do, we know of. The way you do it, we know of. And maybe we'll talk about this a bit later on. And eventually, being an Initiate means being privileged within that structure. Getting access to stuff, being, being in the know-how and having other people recognize your status and your experience and all that. So that's what initiates as a concept is. But more than anything, initiates are the people. You are the initiates. Initiates is nothing in itself.
That's intriguing to me because I feel like there was a fundamental shift in the way we approach the perspective of the game, starting with Assassin's Creed 3. Yeah. Because on the day that Assassin's Creed 3 was released was like a unique nexus for the brand. Yes. Because the day that Assassin's Creed 3 released was the day that the game technically started. That's it. Yeah. So in time, when you picked up the controller and you started inhabiting Desmond for Assassin's Creed 3, that could have been happening in real time. Yes. And that's where Initiates came in as well, to pick up that the concept that we were no longer going back and looking at a story about just some person. We were watching events live as they unfolded in the world, in our actual world that we live in. And I think that the concept behind that, of course, I feel like a lot of our initiates, that was the thing that attracted them to the site in the first place, right? Was that they got to participate in this. But I think that the broader population of gamers may not have been familiar with exactly what was going on, and that's why I think we get a lot of comments like, "Oh, what happened? What are we doing now? Like, what are we like? Where's Desmond?" They're used to having that conduit, yes. As opposed to now, the way we're looking at it is, if you're playing an Assassin's Creed game, are you really playing a game, or are you a part of this, right. of this movement, this like, yeah.
reality, I guess, this paradigm. Yeah, and I you can easily see how this transition, starting with Black Flag, because obviously having this playable character that is no one, yet is someone enough that you can situate him as being an Abstergo employee, but still, it was someone, but it was not. It was anyone really, and that was a key element in that transition. And you guys will notice by going into Unity, that things have gone one step further now, in the sense that while you are an initiate or you're a victim, is the way I would like to put it. Or a victim. I mean, you just bought the latest piece of Abstergo Entertainment. Woohoo, good for you. And you will, without knowing, you will basically become a data slave for Abstergo, because you're gonna go in their product and you're gonna interact with all these memories, and you're gonna help them harvest for whatever nefarious deed they may be building. And believe me, they are nefarious. And even if you don't want to, you're already part of this new paradigm, this new present-day paradigm. Because, again, if you don't know what's going on, it means you're just playing an Abstergo product without knowing, which is fun, which is kind of fun for everyone else that actually knows what's going on. So you can see it. You can look at someone that doesn't know and go like, you data slave. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's going on. And as an initiate, you're like, okay, wait a minute. So how can we use this product to benefit the Brotherhood's cause and the advancement of what the Brotherhood is today, and its safekeeping and rebirth and whatnot. So that fourth wall, I guess, has been entirely broken down right now, and this is our new responsibility: is how do we make that live, and how do we safekeep the sort of a canon and the logics of breaking down that wall, which is not going to be easy, and we're going to slip once in a while. You're going to see elements that are going to bring you back. It's going to break the suspension of disbelief and all that. But I think mostly we're building this a solid concrete base for this new way of looking at the AC reality, and Initiates being this wrapper, right? The way we explain it, the way we make sure the present day lives and it makes sense. And
so that's as good a time as any to then talk about the platform, I guess, the delivery method.
Yeah.
So historically, Initiates, there was a website, and through that people could get, the persistent present-day story, as you've mentioned, initially following Desmond, the Desmond files as they were, but, everything else as well. But that's not going to be the case anymore.
Nope. And again, if there's anything to learn from life, is that you can plan as much as you want. Sometimes things happen, frogs happen, as they say. It used to be, if you remember, it used to be, what was it? Know more, play more, earn more, right? That was these were the pillars for the initiated experience as a website. Obviously, I think it was great and very rich and deep in everything it could offer. It was also the highest friction platform you could use because it was web only. It was not even mobile compliant. Even gameplay wise, if you wanted to start the different missions, you had to go to your computer, click start mission, then go back and play the game. No in-game feedback. No clue of, is this even recording? Are my stats working? Then you would go back to your computer. You would press F5 like a maniac to make sure it was sort of picking up on the stats, and then you would redeem. I mean, yeah, right. It did amazing things for what it was, and people don't realize, but I mean, about 5% of the whole Black Flag player base was registered. And a good 3% were coming on the platform frequently. Now, this may seem like a small number, but again, remember, these are like a few percents of a hugely selling game, and with all the friction of going to the computer. So we were pretty happy with that. But obviously, that was only one version. It was a birth of an idea and a platform. It had to go dark, and you know the reason why. And it's because we got picked up by the assassins, and they got pissed and worried, and they just shut everything down. And then it was just a Twitter feed, because people will keep on using Twitter if everything fails, as we saw in the different uprisings around the world. Twitter rules. So I mean, obviously, initiates is still there. I mean, because initiates are still around as people, obviously, and like I said, Unity is a new step in this idea, and it meant that we needed a new platform, and we had a very specific key things that we needed to nail in order to survive as an idea and as an ideal, I should say. We needed to be present in game. Again, may sound like a detail, but go on the floor and ask these guys if you could, excuse me, can we squeeze in your game, and then try to watch their reaction.
We just want to add one menu item. It'll be fine.
Can we just have it? Can you guys give us a hat or a cape, something we could? It was really hard, and again, they strongly agreed to the ideal, and this has never been an issue. I mean, people understand, people get excited about what initiates is and everything, but we had to find a way to connect with the game and make it reasonable and deliverable. So we did that. So we are in game, meaning that playing Unity. And by the way, we have a full support for Rogue, but as people know, Rogue uses, I guess, what we could call an old-gen pipeline. Mm-hmm. So people playing Rogue will have a very similar experience than if you were playing Black Flag in terms of connectivity, just to make this clear. Although it's not as bad, I'll tell you why. But so in Unity, we're present in-game, and if you're doing stuff as an initiate, you get feedback in-game. So already that's like a huge improvement, because you know what's going on. If you're connected, we're listening to you and we're talking to you in game as well. Then if you do want to go on the platform, you will be able to swap over to your console browser while the game is still running. So again, this is a technical hurdle we had with the old generation. If you did that on a PS3, for example, it would kill the game, which sucked big times. Now, no, the game is still running fine, and then it swaps over to the platform. Then you can do whatever it is you do there. You can look at what's going on, and you can easily swap back to the game and keep on playing. So it means that we reduce, largely almost every friction there was to using the platform. Swapping over to the browser is pretty easy, and we've tested it, and it's pretty fast as well. So that shouldn't be a problem. And so you can know what's going on. You don't have to get up and go to your computer and press F5 like a maniac. So the first objective, again, was to be present in-game, to be able to have the platform easily accessible. And the third thing that we did as well, which will help everyone, including the Rogue players, is that very same platform will be mobile and like touch compliant, if you will. So it's not a separate app. It's the actual website. That address, the URL you would enter, works on tablets and phones, and it's touch compliant. It's touch friendly, if you will.
Yeah.
So you can, if you're playing Rogue, you can have your tablet next to you and still, do the F5 with your finger, and you can try to refresh the platform without having to go on a computer. So it's still better. So again, it's a huge improvement. I understand it's mostly technical. Some people may not see the big difference there. But the difference is this: 5% will become, I don't know, man, 50, 60, 70%. You're playing the game, you're going to see stuff around Paris that you can only get if you're an initiate. And it's a one-click registry thing, right? So
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing for us to cover, right? Because I know that we've had quite a bit of discussion. We've seen quite a bit of a discussion in our community. People are seeing things like chests that are marked as initiates chests, and they're just like, well, how do I get that? And the reality of it is you barely have to do anything in order to get that, right?
well, yeah, that was the goal, right? I mean, if you're obviously if you're online, because if you're offline, we shouldn't be having this conversation. If you're online and you're connected to Uplay, then we automatically get the token from Uplay because Initiates uses the Uplay platform to gather all the data from all the games you've played. So it is really a one-click registry saying, well, yeah, I want to become an initiate, and then I want to see what's that about. And you don't even need to go on the platform at that moment, right? You could just keep on playing. But eventually, you'll either get an in-game message or you'll see your card in the menu, and whenever you interact with those, then boom, you're going to switch over. So it's really about getting people to register, getting people exposed to this reality, and then get them on the platform where we created a new version of what the missions used to be. So you don't need to start and redeem missions. We have different, but it's more like a training program, and that's the way we position it, right? As initiates, you need to train to become better at beating the simulation, because that's the only way you can help the assassins whenever they need you to do something, right? If they come in and say, okay, guys, we need to flood the servers, or you need to, make sure we find all the loopholes in that specific sequence or whatever. You need to go in and you need to be good at what you do. And this is why we position the service today as being a training platform for initiates. So you'll have like daily challenges that you can perform, different ways to craft your training program, if you will. And all of that, most of it is passively tracked. So even if you don't know about it, just by playing, you'll get these messages once in a while saying, "Oh, you've just completed a drill, like a stealth drill or a fighting drill," and then eventually you'll be curious. You'll click the button and swap over to the platform. So that's the way we imagine the experience today.
It's very important, and as Gabe mentioned, it's a big improvement because, like we said, we've seen conversation amongst the community. For starters, obviously, those who used to interact with the Initiates website, one of the things that we used to get from them was, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to have to go to my PC to do something to then come back.
So we didn't have to go to our community. I remember sitting on my couch with my laptop being like, man, I really wish it could just be my phone or a tablet or something like that. And now you guys have responded.
Well, yeah, I mean, we knew we had to live within the ecosystem. And being everywhere else is also important, obviously, but to be on your machine, I mean, because you're gaming, you're sitting there, and we need to be there with you. Otherwise, it makes no sense, right?
So you don't have to detach from the gaming as much as it's running in the background. And I mean, for instance, I have an Xbox One. It's literally just an app switching.
That's it.
So the game's still there, paused in a suspended state while you're looking at something else without having to ever let go of the controller. So that's considerably much better flow to start with.
Well, that's it. That's what we need to do. And I think, I mean, hardcore initiates and people that are very deep in the lore and all that, they will find that the platform that we're deploying for ACU is not focused on that. I mean, you probably understood by the way I described it. It is not just a reproduction of what the website was, because that would not be nice to use with a controller while you're playing your game. No. So, again, the focus is not on that side so much. Although initiates will still hear about stuff if they listen well enough. But the focus of the platform is really ease of use and being everywhere, and having additional gameplay and additional privileges and stuff you can really sort of, create in your game. And then the future holds so many things we can do as soon as we have this established, right? Because if we're in your machine, in your game, and everywhere else, then we can start building stuff. And obviously, we're already looking at what can be done for the future, because, Unity is about to ship, and so our job for Unity is pretty much done. So we're looking into the future and how can we iterate and improve on this dream and this vision that we're trying to push through, right? And of course, I'm not going to say what form it could take for the future, but there is so much we can do once we, we're everywhere and easier to access, obviously.
Hashtag secrets.
Hashtag secrets.
But no, it's important to also, and I should appeal to those fans who are very narrative driven and heavy in the lore, that you're not being abandoned in so much as that, like, as Alexis said, in Unity, if you look and listen hard enough, there will be things that you will see that will make sense. But it all ties in to why Initiates is now on consoles as well. I mean, we're not going to go into spoiler territory, but I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting, and those who are even more hardcore than say I am with regards to the lore and how all of that connects in should be happy at.
Oh yeah, because it does. And just again, so people understand this, we have a very clear and strong mandate of taking care of that. So
I think that's self-explanatory.
Yeah, we will. I mean, we will.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like that's where Initiate started, right? The idea was that it would be for those ultra-dedicated super fans who needed more contact with the brand directly. Yeah. And I feel like that still remains at the core of the mandate, right? Like, that still remains, like, the primary audience. I mean, we would like to bring, of course, more people to the Initiate's table, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like we remember where we started.
Oh, that's for sure. And I mean, again, the with the fort wall being broken down now, it means that the brand is always on, right? It's always live. So yes, the platform for ACU is not built with that in priority, right? So it's not meant to be this super awesome RSS aggregator on your console with a pad, right, to move around. No, that's not the case. But it's live, it's on, so it cannot go off, right? So I mean, this is how we want to do things, and a word I really like that we've been using a lot to try to explain, even internally, the push that we had to do for ACU and everything was midcore. Right, because we knew, and Initiates being born by the hardcore for the hardcore, and that was the purpose. That's the way it was meant to be, which is where we learned how to do that. Now we know how to do that, and we have content people that just know how to make this brand live. But we had to do more. Yes, obviously we had. So this is why I say midcore, is because at some point there were discussions. Do you want to go mainstream? Or I was like, okay, wait, like all these words are loaded with meaning that I don't care to use. And no, this is not what it means. And to me, midcore is exactly what it means. Is how do you get people that love the games, they get excited by the games, maybe they're newcomers, I don't care. Maybe they've done 2-3 ACs, but maybe they're not hardcore, quote unquote, right? Maybe they don't go online and look for stuff. But it doesn't mean they're not interested. So how do you get these people in as a basis for the future, where then we can grow all the different circles of players, right? So that's why we had to do this push and this sell and try to really think of a vision where we could reach the midcore. Then maybe they don't want to come, and that's fine, but we need to be able to reach you at the very least, and then we will be able to multiply all the channels for everyone, and then make sure that the hardest of core to the softest of core, we have something in the brand for people that are engaged.
Well, I mean, it's just such a universal community concept, right? Like, whenever you have a community, like a group of people who like a thing, right? They are familiar, they become familiar with each other, and they share the fact that they like that thing together with each other. And then the years go on, and maybe that thing becomes more popular, and new people show up, and they're just like, oh, hey, I just heard about this thing, and I like it. One of the issues that we run into running community for before I worked on Assassins, I worked on a couple of different games too, and it seems to be pretty, all the community managers that I talk to similarly have run into these issues. Newcomers to the group, and how they are received, right? So I think one of the things that we've noticed a lot with Assassins, and one of the things that we've tried to really instill in our community as a whole, and I feel like this is the part where we reach out to the people listening to this podcast who almost for sure are already Initiates fans, right? Yeah. This podcast began with the Initiates. Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're at the very least the mid-core, if not the hardcore. You're probably a little bit more hardcore, and that's why we want to talk directly to you, because it's your responsibility to be as welcoming as possible and to help us grow. As opposed to being exclusionary or elitist, right? It's a thing that we have to combat pretty frequently, I think, in community management in general, because there's a tendency to be like, well, I was here first, and so I'm the biggest fan.
Well, yeah, of course.
We know you guys are huge fans, but that's the biggest fans of all want company.
Yeah. Yeah, because how can you demonstrate your privileges if there's no one with lesser privileges around to look at you, right? No. I mean, that's the whole point of status. No, but I just want to add to this. Design-wise, we have something on the Initiates platform and Project and Ideal as a whole. We have access to the most powerful thing there is in the world today. And no, it's not bacon, as you might think. We have access to data. And this means that, and again, I'm talking about the future now, because this is part of our vision as a whole for AC, especially for Initiates. But even design-wise, for me as a being a designer, it's one of the key components of the future is the power of data, which means that in the future, I could imagine that if you come on the platform, I know who you are, and I can talk to you the way you should be talked to, which means that it's okay to get anyone in if you feel like you're not losing something from that, right? So again, this is why I was fighting the whole mainstream thing a lot, because I was saying, no, it's opening up to mid-core, but in the future, it means that if you're hardcore and we know it, and I can talk to you that way, the first time you land on the platform when a new game comes out, I can be like, oh, here you are, and I know everything about you. I know the number of hours you've been on a boat. I know the number of times you've stabbed someone in the back. I could decide to craft a message specifically based on that single piece of information and make sure that other people understand that of you as well. So I'm talking about status and privileges in the future. Opening up the social scape is something really important for me. So I don't know how much of it we're going to be able to do, right? But if you go out there being recognized and being, so there's a place for everyone, and we need to make that place not using the lowest common denominator, but always being catered towards who you are. And again, only with data can we do this. So we have all this in our hands already, so we just need to build it.
It's funny because it's almost like we're developing new tools to demonstrate how important our fans are to us.
Well, yeah, exactly. And empowering them to craft their own identity that way, and craft their individual and social identity using these tools. And this is, I think, this is really important. This is not like a cheap gimmicky reward or whatever. This is a trace of your passage in the brand and in life. This is what you leave behind. So I think we need to make sure we deliver on these things.
And I guess to sum up all of that, I remember something that Jean Guidon, who was creative director on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and is obviously very influential in the brand, I remember a thing he told me, which was Assassin's Creed should always be something that people can take as much as they want out of it, right? It's like, so if you want to play only the games, that's cool. If you want to consume transmedia, that's fine too. If you want to take in everything, you want to read the novels, you want to look for all the secrets, that should be open to you. And it's like, I've always seen like and envisioned Initiates as a place where different types of fans can mingle, different types of fans can come and congregate and take as much of Assassin's Creed as they want.
Yep.
You know, and that's cool. You're not any less of a fan than somebody else. You're just positioned in a different place, right? So yeah. Well, I guess on that note we're gonna end, but I guess I'll say congratulations on the return.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Looking forward to seeing how the community eats that all up.
Yes, how they engage, and remember, people, we are watching you. And we will, believe me, like I was talking about data, we will be watching you and we will learn from everything you do, so keep that in mind. Yeah.
So as we always do, we invite you to share with us any social media that you might want to plug where people might follow you.
Right. Well, I am on Twitter. You're on Twitter? Yeah, which doesn't mean that I use it that much, right? But I mean, it's there and I read it and I try to, I respond sometimes. Most of the time I respond.
And what's your Twitter handle?
That's a good question. It's just like sort of my name but shorter, so it's kind of annoying to find. So I'm sure you can retweet it or whatever it is you do with Twitter. But I believe it's at, right? That's how it starts, right? Yeah. Alexis. So oh my God, Alexis. That's Alexis. There's an N. There's an S at the end of it. Jolis, which is Jolis, then D. Just the D letter because it sounds like one of those cool 80s morning cartoon character names like Alexis Jolis-D. It bounces so well.
There you go. It's perfect for Twitter.
So there you go. You've actually broken the streak because the last 4 guests we had on the podcast have not had social media.
Really? Yeah. Well, that's shameful. I can't believe that.
It's been great for us, but not saying that you being on Twitter is bad, but
I don't know. It probably is, to be honest. But yeah, you guys.
We'll be watching you now.
Yeah, you guys should just connect with EscoBlades, anyways. I mean, he's always saying stuff. I read your stuff, man, but I don't I don't tweet myself, really.
Well, there you go. So Alexi is on Twitter if you would like to follow him and maybe ask him Initiates questions that he may or may not be able to answer. Oh, yeah. And Gabe's going to tell you all of the Assassin's Creed social media.
I am. You can reach Assassin's Creed anywhere on the internet. Yes. It's everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. We're on Twitter at Assassin's Creed, Facebook.com/Assassin's Creed. Google Plus, I think, is Google Plus /
Assassin's Creed now. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that your doing?
Get that vanity link.
That vanity link? Oh boy, look at that. Getting things done for the brand. We also got Instagram.com / Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed.com, Assassin'sCreed.tumblr.com.
Yes.
And I think that's all of them. Yeah. We got YouTube channels, Assassin's Creed. We have, depending on where you live, though, you might want to check out your local Assassin's Creed YouTube channel, because we have Assassin's Creed UK, Assassin's Creed FR for France, Italy. They're all different. Yeah. The page will direct you when you go.
Oh, and you're at UbiGabe on Twitter.
Yeah, yes. That's me at UbiGabe.
And you can find Assassin's Creed Initiates at AC Initiates on Twitter. You can find Instagram.com/AC Initiates, YouTube.com/AC Initiates, and now you can find AC Initiates on your console.
Well, yeah.
Just go find something in Initiates chest and see. And I'm at EscoBlades on Twitter should you want to connect with me as well. So on that note, we're gonna wrap things up. Thank you for joining us, Alexi.
Oh, sure thing, man. Pleasure's mine.
And thank you all of you for listening and watching, I guess, depending on where you're consuming this podcast. And we'll be back again soon. Take care, stay safe, and bye for now.